So, Geoff, when someone says, I need to think about it, what are they really saying? And why do most salespeople respond in a way that guarantees the deal dies?
Okay, so the way I teach the guys and girls in my world, right, which is the kind of digital online sales space, is that you've really only got 4 buckets of objections, right? Don't have the time, don't have the money, need to speak to a third party, let me think about it. And really everything they can say, regardless of what it is, oh, shoot this over in an email, or let me come back to you next week, or I've got to check with next door's goldfish, like whatever it is, will fall into one of those 4 buckets, right? And the way I separate them is like this. The first 3, don't have the time, don't have the money, need to speak to a third party, can all be either logistical, meaning that could be true, right? That could be the reality. They do want to do it, but they do need to sign off with another person, or they do want to do it, but right now they've got too many projects and, March is going to be better, whatever. Let me think about it is the only one that's guaranteed to be a smokescreen. Because let me think about it is a proxy for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And where I see people slip up with that is they will say something like, well, what do you need to think about? And it's like, all right, well, great way of trying to extract the truth from somebody is just treat them like, it's the Gestapo, right? Probably not a good way to go. So what that means is that we've got to further dig into the problem. So you say that to me, my response is going to be, John, fully appreciate that this is, maybe a larger decision and it's going to take a little bit of time. No problem at all. So I diffuse, right? Number 1, diffuse any kind of pressure because they know that this is the close. They know they're going to have to try and make a decision. And if you inject more pressure there, they're just going to clam up, throw up a brick wall, and you're not going to get to the truth. And really the purpose of any objection handle is to get to the truth. So number 1 is diffuse. Second question is I want to know whether what I've laid out is in alignment, whether they like it. Is it a problem with the service? Have I not explained it correctly? Did they expect to get something that I haven't run them through? So the way I do that is just by asking a simple question. John, no problem at all. Absolutely appreciate it's a larger decision. It's going to take a bit of time. Putting that to one side for a second, mate. How do you actually feel about what I've gone over? Ultimately, do you feel like this is going to be a good plan for you to achieve X, Y, and Z? Now, based on how they respond to that gives me the direction I need to go because there's a world of difference between somebody saying, mate, 100%, this sounds like the bee's knees, and that person going, yeah. Right. Number 2 is they said yes in both scenarios, but number 2 scenario, they said yes, but meant something completely different, which is where obviously body language and tonality and all of that kind of stuff plays into it. If it's number 2 and then, yeah, then I'm going to call out the elephant in the room and I'm going to say, John, time out for literally 2 seconds. I know you said yes, but I've never heard a less convincing yes in my life. So just like cards on the table, mate, I'm here to help if I can. And if I can't, I can't. What's coming up for you? I want to, through good tonality and through positioning myself on the same side of the table as them, I want to understand what is actually coming up. And if you deliver that correctly, 9 times out of 10, they'll go, all right, look, fair enough. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. And that thing, the next thing out of their mouth is very, very often the real objection, the thing that the smoke screen was hiding. Now, if they do respond super positively, oh, mate, this sounds like this is perfect. Like this is absolutely perfect. Now I'm more confident that this is just going to be logistical or potentially financial. At which I'll do the same thing again and I'll explain why I do this. Address the elephant in the room. Okay, mate, so you like the product. I haven't offended you. You don't hate my face or my voice in any way. Little bit of humor. Again, diffuse. No, mate, no, you're great. This is great. Everything's great. Okay, so just for my own kind of notes and to be able to feed back to my gaffer, what is the real thing wanting you to put a bit of distance between now and next Friday? Oh, yeah, no, it's simple, mate. It's just I've got too many projects and next Friday I'm going to be good to go. Right? So the whole way I teach objection handling is so different to a lot of other people who I was going to be rude and disparaging to a lot of the sales trainers online then, but I won't. I'll hold my tongue, is to get to the truth. I don't want to use clever phrases and, I saw this on a TikTok and I saw this on it. And, I'm guilty of this, right? Because it's good for reach. But teaching people word tracks, specific word tracks. And there are specific word tracks, but the way most people teach this moves the prospect further away from the truth and builds more resistance. I want to reduce resistance and get to the real crux of what's causing them to say, let me think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, do you know what? And that perfectly aligns with feedback. So feedback, in your instance, you just described, you gave the example of just make sure I can tell my boss what's happening, right? Well, my boss is my client.
Yep.
And so what happens is, and I see this so often, and I was privy to an email that I was sent just recently from a seller using an agent. The agent is not getting any feedback, and there was a time where the seller asked for feedback, and 2 weeks later, the agent came back to him and said, oh, yeah, by the way, they've bought something else, just decided against yours. Okay, why?
Right.
Two things. Why didn't we know that at the point of actually doing the viewing?
Yep.
Right? And why didn't you know that they were looking at something else before they've even seen the house anyway?
Right. I'll tell you why. Bad discovery. Didn't ask the question when we were first getting to know each other. So, John, aside from this, is there anything else that you're looking at or considering? Yeah, there is actually, mate. Okay, well, now we're not going to get blindsided at the end of the conversation. We know that there's other things on the table. The second thing would be asking the question after you've done a viewing, maybe in your world, and I'll hold my hands up. I don't know your world, but I can't imagine it being too dissimilar. The second question would be, so, John, that's the property, all of its, ins, outs, goods, bads, warts and all. I guess the ultimate question, mate, is can you see yourself living here? Simple question, right? They're either going to go, yeah, mate, this is perfect. Or they're going to go, at which point you know something's wrong. And I just think too many people fail to ask basic questions to really gauge where that person is in their decision.
Is it deliberate what you do? Because it sounds like you're layering.
Yeah, very deliberate. Yeah, sales is a learned skill, and I kind of had a backwards and forwards. I won't say an argument, but it was a backwards and forwards with somebody online the other day, and they said, "Well, anybody can learn to sell because it is a learned skill." And I said to that person, "I agree with 50% of that. Sales is a learned skill. I don't think anybody can learn to sell because you've got to be. I feel like in order to be able to learn to sell well, you've got to be a naturally good communicator. And if you have naturally good communication, then you can layer on the skills of sales. So yeah, it's 100% deliberate. Yeah.
And also as well, do you look at, like, from when you're obviously generating a lot of money for your clients, and you have done in the past as well, doing it now, but are you doing it for your back pocket, or are you doing it for the right reasons? And is there a difference in approach?
All of the teams I work with, one of the first things I teach them is sales is service. Your job is not to sell that person, because that would indicate that, and I can't remember who it was, maybe Tom Hopkins way back in the day said the word sell would indicate that it's a win-lose situation. I win, I get a commission, and you lose. That is not what sales should be. Sales should be a win-win for both parties. Yes, I get a commission, but also you get the thing that you want as well. So we both win in that scenario. So one of the first principles of sales I always teach is stop thinking about it as selling. Think about it as serving. Am I doing the best thing to help this person? And they've been literally yesterday had a conversation with an individual who I could not help because I won't go into it. Anyway, I couldn't help him. So could I have sold him? Because he came to me and he was like, Geoff, I really need your help. Sales team, training, systems, all the rest of it. And I had to point him in another direction. I had to say, look, you and I are not going to be able to work together. So for me, sales is, am I doing the right thing for that person? Even if it means I lose money, am I serving that person in the best possible way? For me, that's what good sales is.
Absolutely. And also, I think maybe there's the extra bit in that as well. Sometimes if you know a lot about a person because you were asking the right questions and that discovery of who they really are and what they're trying to achieve, is it also a case of you can use that as then leverage to push them into the right direction, even though they may be slightly resistant.
100%. That's why discovery exists. Is it does two things. It helps you become very aware of who you're speaking to, why you're speaking to them, what are their goals, their desires, their dreams, their fears, all that kind of stuff. But it also gives you, it's going to sound bad, it makes sense to you, army guy. It gives you ammunition for the end of the call to be able to hold them accountable if that is the right thing for them. That's why a good discovery, I think, is so very vital. A good discovery will solve so many problems, hiccups and objections come the end of the process if you've done your discovery correctly.
So quick side note on that, and just to endorse what you're saying, there was a girl once, and I've told this story many times before, Dutch girl looking to buy a flat in Notting Hill. And I was like, I don't know whether you're looking for a flat in Notting Hill. I don't personally think you are, based upon everything you've just told me. I think you're looking for a house north of Ladbroke Grove. Do not darken my doorstep with any suggestion of any house beyond the bridge going north in Ladbroke Grove. Don't do it. 3 weeks later, I called her up. How's everything going? Have you found that flat in Notting Hill? She said, John, I've seen over 30 flats. The agents are just not showing me what I want. And I said, the good news is I have 3 flats that I want to show you based upon everything we discussed. John, please don't. You're not lying to me, are you? You're not lying to me. You do have it, because I'm just so frustrated. I went, no, I've got the 3 flats. We got in the car. We should have turned right going into Notting Hill. We turned left, heading towards the bridge that she said she didn't want to be anywhere close to. Central locking goes down. She says, John, what are you doing? I said, right, these keys that I've just shown you are to nothing at all. This set of keys, though, is to a house. When we got back in the car after the viewing, she said, fucking hell, how did you know what I wanted? She paid 550 grand cash for the house, which was the asking price. And she was like, how did you know what I wanted? I said, because I listened. And you described the house to me. It wasn't like I did anything amazing. I just knew the right questions to ask, and also, run the risk of being done for kidnapping someone. But the point is that, it is being done for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But I suppose, though, here's the thing, right? What do the average salesman do in the first 5 minutes of a sales call that elite closers would never tolerate? And how does that mistake sabotage the rest of the conversation?
There's a lot to unpack about that question. So, again, in my world, I think there's been about a decade of people studying sales, which you should, right? Sales is a skill set. I think the problem is that that's led to people sounding like salesmen and women. And the market is infinitely more sophisticated in 2026 than it's ever been. Most people of age to buy something have been on sales calls before. They know all the phrases. They know I literally did a call review for a client this morning, and he sent me his script, and I said, right, you're selling to a very sophisticated avatar, high net worth individuals, that sort of stuff. And the script started by saying, so John, this is how this call's going to go. And I'm like, mate, that would work to an unsophisticated market, extreme B2C, BizOp, that type of stuff. You say that to a high net worth individual, and they're going to tell you exactly where to stick that first phrase. So I think from my perspective and from what I see in my market, people have lost the ability to be human beings. Just remember that you're having a conversation with a human being. Now, is that a structured conversation? Yes, but it can't sound like a structured conversation. It has to sound like a conversation. Just like, and again, the biggest tip I always give my guys and girls is when you're entering into that conversation, you're very much like an actor or an actress. You are not trying to be somebody that you're not. That's not what I mean. But the first time Leonardo DiCaprio sits in a round table with the other actors and they go through their lines, sounds shit. By the time the film comes out, you forget he's Leonardo DiCaprio. You think he's that person, right? And your sales script is going to be very much the same. Repetition is the mother of all learning. So you need to riff that script so much that it becomes so ingrained, it then sounds like you, and it sounds very natural. And from my perspective, that's one of the biggest killers of business. Is instead of you coming on a call with me and going, man, reasonable guy. I like this guy. He's a
Yeah.
good guy. Seems good. Seems like he's on my vibe. If I go, John, so this is how this call's going to go. All of a sudden you go, prick. Right. And now I've potentially killed the deal in the first 10 seconds of the conversation. So I think from my perspective, it's people losing the ability or losing sight of the fact that just be a normal human. Like, stop being so fucking weird.
Absolutely. And there is that thing around, especially in agencies, right? Who are you calling now? What vendor you're speaking to? What instructions didn't we get? Get back on the phone with them. Do all this. And you're like rabbit in headlights thinking, I've never spoken to that seller in my life.
Right.
And I watched one of the videos you did recently, which you spoke about your top 5 phrases, your opening phrases that you've ever heard. And one of those was, this is a cold call. Would you give me 30 seconds or would you like to hang up the phone now? I think that was the essence of it.
Yep.
Everyone's going to give you 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, some people are still going to slam the phone down, but because it's a pattern interrupt and because people are so used to, when they get cold called, they're so used to the normal opening phrase, hi, John, it's Geoff from Scale Simple. How's your day going? That
Phone
phrase,
down.
how's your day going? Bonk, because every cold caller in the universe has used that phrase. So when you use that phrase, guess what? Yeah. So if you open with, hi, John, it's Geoff. I'll be totally upfront with you, mate. This is a sales call and I will understand if you want to slam the phone down on me. There'll be no hate, but you could also give me 30 seconds. It's up to you. And so many people go, all right. Okay, I can't. Fair enough. You were totally honest and upfront. All right, go on. You got 30 seconds. What you got?
Yeah, and that's so. With salespeople are very much seen as what you trying to sell me.
Yeah.
And of course, estate agents are disliked before they say a word. They're distrusted before they open up the front door, and the ones. They've got to recognise they're in a negative reputation industry. Yeah. So I think if that person has been told, get on the phone, get in front of that vendor, speak to them, and they're saying, hello, it's John from such and such estates, and I'm already hated, and the seller's dishevelled, frustrated because their agent they did choose is not getting it right, they are not going to be receptive to me. Nope. But if I'm calling up and I'm being honest, look, this is a sales call. Would you give me 30 seconds? And then suddenly it's well, that don't mean to say that you're going to win the sale or to be able to persuade someone of anything. Right. What it does mean is you've got maybe another 2 minutes to be able to get your message across. Which is the
only point of that opener. And I think there was a comment on that video. Somebody goes, oh yeah, clever one. What happens then? And I was like, well, okay, well, if you want part 2, I'll make you part 2, but I can't do a full 60-minute, training in a 45-second TikTok,
But like you said, it's the beauty, and it's having the confidence and the courage to be able to do it through repetition and go, do you know what? I'm going to get this wrong. I'm going to get this wrong. This is going to come out wrong, but I'm going to persevere. And so when I do like my training around soft skills for agents, it's like, if you know these questions verbatim, then you are able to run the conversation as you want to run it without the other person realizing you're running it, because they may say something, and as opposed to you going back, well, I need to ask the second question now. Well, maybe it's more relevant to ask the 5th question.
Right.
And that moment, and then go back, because what I want to know is the what, the how, the when, the why. But if I said, so why do you want to come and see this house? I'm getting someone's back up straight away versus, of course, I will show you on Saturday morning. But can I ask, what's attracted you to it? As opposed to what agencies say is, before I can show you that house that you just asked to go and see, I need to spend 10 minutes registering your details. And now I'm going to ask you, it's going to come across like an interrogation. Right. And base everything and your credibility as a buyer on, do you have a mortgage in principle and what's the size of your deposit, which has nothing to do with the house you've just asked to go and see as a buyer. But how early on can you tell a prospect is a time waster, and what questions expose that instantly without sounding aggressive?
So I think this is probably slightly different in my world to yours. In my world, we have applications that come through prior to any kind of sales conversation. So that will give you, it's also a stat that about 50% of everybody that fills out those applications lie, right? So somebody indicates they've got loads of money, get them on a call, they're flat broke. Somebody indicates that they're flat broke, you get them on a call and they're like, I just didn't want to write down my net worth. And like, okay, now here we go. So it's slightly different for us because we do have applications prior to. But again, everything's going to come down to good discovery, right? So good discovery questions. Once you've done the pleasantries and all the rest of it. So, John, I'm curious, what's got you interested in this house? Oh, well, it's got an extra bedroom. Oh, okay. Obviously, an extra bedroom is important to you. Any particular reason why? Yeah, we've got a baby on the way. Oh, my man, congratulations. Number 1, number 2, number 10. Oh, it's actually number 3. Oh, mate, buy a TV. That's my advice. Ha, 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 all the rest of it, right? But it's about discovering what is that person's motivation for moving. Because if they don't have a motivation, they'll give you some BS, right? They'll say, oh, yeah, I like the look of it. Okay. Where are you moving from? Walthamstow. All right. I like Walthamstow. Said nobody ever. I like Walthamstow. What's got you wanting to move? Well, I was just a bit curious. Okay. That's probably not a serious buyer. But if they say, we need an extra bedroom, we want a better area, we want better transport links. Okay, what's the importance with transport links? I'm changing jobs. Oh, nice. When are you changing jobs? 3 months' time. Okay, now we're starting to gauge urgency, right? And again, everything comes down to a good, thorough, natural discovery.
Absolutely. And there is a conversation I remember I had with this American guy. And so if I tell you what my questions are, it's good for the audience, right? Is first one, I'm interested in, so what's attracted you to it? Mm-hmm. I then ask anything else, minimum 3 times. Because it's like being British. If a waiter comes up to you in a restaurant and says, how's nice the food? But you and I have just had a conversation saying this food's shit. And yet they come up and say, how nice is the food? We'll both go, oh my God, it was amazing.
10 out of 10.
Thank
absolutely
you.
beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for when that potential buyer puts the phone down. Yep. They're like, fuck, I should have mentioned this. And then they won't call you back to tell you what they should have mentioned. They'll just go, I'll brush it under the carpet. So anything else until we've exhausted that. But I also want to know what the best house that they've seen so far is, right? Because they will instantly give me their budget.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask them, what was really good about that? Anything else? Then I want to know is, well, if it's that good, why haven't you bought it?
Why haven't you bought it? Right.
Yeah. And they're like, well, no, John, we've still got an offer in, but the seller's not doing what we need them to do. And it looks like we're not going to be able to move when we need to move because of X. And now I'm finding out all this other, I now know their budget. I know exactly what roads they're looking at. And that as it the same as what they've just asked to go and see. If it's different, it's not a problem. But is it the same? I'm trying to gauge to see, are they going to be completing this? One American guy, he wanted to go and see a £250,000 flat on the next local authority estate in Ladbroke Grove, right? And one of my questions at the end is, just to sense check everything, is look, if money was no object, can you describe the ideal vision of the perfect property? Now, of course, not everybody sees things. Some people hear things, some people feel things. So we have to be a little bit careful of that. But the ideal description of the perfect property. And he told me it was a £2 million house in Queen's Park. And I was like, that's really different to what you're asking to go and see. Because I'm not making any assumptions on what's in his bank account, right?
Right.
Why is that so different? And he said, John, because my wife and I have split up and I want to be as close to my kids as I can. And this is the only thing I can afford.
Useful information.
Proper useful. He bought it. And so when I'm now speaking to the boss man, who is not my manager, my director of my estate agency, my lister, my valuer, my senior none of them are my boss man. The boss man is the seller selling that's employed us to be able to sell the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and telling my colleagues is an afterthought. Giving them the update and the feedback is an afterthought. First and foremost, why does this guy want to buy this house? And on a scale that I think you're getting at, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are they selling me? What are they saying? And the more they're telling me, the more they're opening up, the more I'm thinking, right, that means they're probably going to offer on this house before they've even seen it. That's the holy grail. But equally, my last questions in the house, first impressions, really, really good. That doesn't mean to say they can see themselves living there, as you said earlier.
Right.
So, what was really good about it? And then we unpack what they really, really like about it. So can you see yourself living here? Actually, John, I can't. All right, why? Well, because of this, this, and this, and this, and this. Well, does this house have to have something else, like the next house I show you? So give you everything that you really like, take away all the stuff you don't want. Does it have to have anything else to make you buy it? Actually, if it had X, Y, and Z, right, so the very next house I show you that has what you like, doesn't have what you don't want, but has all the extras you just mentioned, you're buying it. Yes. Next phone call. Geoff, that property you said you really want is come to market. You still in the market for it? Absolutely. Right, you need to leave work now. Fine. You don't ask your boss for permission to leave work. You tell them. Yeah. And I think that's where good agency, soft skills, but also having that communication level that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And also realizing it's not about you as a sales guy.
No.
And it's not about me. It's about other people getting what they want for the right reasons.
Correct.
But I've got, listen, I know obviously we don't have loads of time, right? So I need to ask you another question. Now, most agents in my industry, right, they blame price when deals fall apart. But from your perspective, when price becomes the objection, what has the salesperson already failed to do?
Qualify. Like, probably the answer to every question so far, and the answer to any sales related question, what would have made this an easier sale, what would have got this person over the line, comes down to discovery. And there's a few sales, and this depends, right? Because there is a technique you can use in sales, which is you sell at the beginning, very hard qualification. And I've done this when I sold big, kind of corporate packages and stuff like that. And you ask them budget questions, what is your budget for this? Or you just tell them what your fees are straight out of the gate. And I would say to people all the time, I'd speak to the CEO or the CFO or whatever it was, and I'd say, look, there's a couple of reasons why people typically end up not working with us. Number one, this is going to take a bit of time, typically 4 to 6 months, and a lot of people are on a bigger time crunch than that. Number two, we're not the cheap option. It's going to be $75K in order to hire us. So of those two things, time frame being longer and budget being higher, are either of those two things a reason that we wouldn't be able to work together? And what are they going to say? One or two things. They're either going to go, 75K on your bike. Great. I don't have to waste any more time with that person. Or they're going to go, 75K is within the budget that we've got set aside for this year.
Yeah.
Right. Pre-qualified, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's perfect and beautiful, because it is a case of just allowing people to have a choice.
Yeah.
And they're not being hemmed into anything. And also you're not getting angry. You're not blaming them for not doing business. You're not doing any of that. You're not saying it's their fault. Oh my God, why? Well, that's it. The reason I failed is because of them. No, they have a choice, and you're giving them an informed decision to make.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and that's why on my TikTok channel, I'm forever telling everybody my minimum fee is 2%. Mm-hmm. And I ask for a £500 upfront marketing contribution, right? Because I don't want to be on the flick for $5,000 in 10 houses that have all said, actually, John, we're not selling no more. Do you know what I mean? Yep. It's just like, and so it's my minimum. If you don't like that, you don't want to work with that, it's like you think it's too much, no problem.
You close up front. Absolutely. We used to do this as well. We used to do a similar thing. We'd say, well, the first thing we're going to do, if you decide that that we're the right fit to help you, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in, we're going to do an audit, we're going to do this. And we'd make the first section of what we do sound fantastic. We weren't hoodwinking anybody, but it was genuinely what we would do. But it sounded great. And I'd ask them, how does that fit? Oh my God, yeah, that sounds awesome. Then I'd go, now obviously we don't do that for free. That's going to be $2,000 up front if you want that done. Okay, so by the end of this call, are you comfortable telling me yes, if that's something you want to go ahead with? Yeah, I'm comfortable. Okay, and are you comfortable telling me to stick it up my jumper if it's not something? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and if we both think it's comfortable and we both feel like it's the next best move, you're happy to put that $2,000 down so that we can get the audit done. Mm. Yeah, I kind of just closed them at the start of the call then. Do you know what I mean?
And that's because you're, and I think it's beautiful. You're not in the convincing business. No. You're in the disqualification business.
100%. I want to disqualify hard, really hard. Because I do not want to waste an hour, 5 hours, a week, a month with somebody that turns around and go, no, I've changed my mind. And so many people have got clogged pipelines, right? Everybody's on the hopium. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they've got this pipeline full of people that might close. So, dude, no. 99% of that pipeline is not going anywhere. You're now playing the follow-up game. And I'm not saying follow-up isn't important. It is, but people have clogged pipelines because they don't disqualify hard enough. Or if this person's raised their hand and shown the modicum of interest, they're qualified. That is not true.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I walked into an art gallery the other day, really expensive paintings on the wall for a mooch around. I'm not qualified to buy a £500,000 painting. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a qualified prospect. Well, he walked in. He must be qualified. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way agents see it, is just because someone's told you they've got a 15% deposit, just because they've told you they've got a mortgage in principle, just because they've told you they've got a solicitor, just because they've told you that they're looking in a particular area, they could be looking in 10 different areas.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like, being upfront, transparent, asking the right questions that doesn't feel like an interrogation, that feels like it's, at the end of the day, no one wants a mortgage in principle. Well, sorry, wrong, a mortgage. Mm-hmm. No one wants the mortgage. They want the house or they want the flat. They don't want the mortgage, right? So it's like, what has that got to do with day one, week one of them? It's about actually, no, they want to dip their toe in. They want to be able to see flats. They want to be able to know what they're doing. And guess what? Today's buyer is tomorrow's seller. So even if that buyer doesn't buy through me, I don't care, because they will sell through me in 3 years' time.
Yeah,
because I've treated them like they are a human being, and exactly. And I know I'm not a high-powered lawyer. Right. I don't have any qualifications in this industry, none at all. But let me just ask you just one more question, right? If you listened to a closer's last 10 sales calls, what pattern would tell you immediately whether they are a professional closer or just hoping it works out?
Two things: sounding like a robot and poor qualification, sounding like a robot and poor discovery. I listen to hundreds of sales calls a week, and the one thing that derails most people is either sounding scripted, or they skip over discovery and go straight to the pitch, and they drop it like a bloody anvil, and then wonder why the person didn't buy. And it's like, well, you did nothing to make your pitch, your service relevant to that individual. So now it's just a smorgasbord of we do this, we do this, we do this. Oh, great. Well, how does that help me? And if you can't relate what you do in the pitch back to their problems, goals, and desires, it turns into bloody fairy dust. Do you know what I mean? So those are the two things: sounding robotic, not sounding like a human, not treating people like a human, not realizing that sales is actually service, and a bloody weak discovery.
Yeah. And do you find, or would you say the applications that people do before they get on a call with you, would you say that agents probably should implement something like that for sellers before they get on a call, maybe to sort of just answer a few questions? Hard hitting, some soft questions.
I don't think it would hurt. Yeah. And just to give you a snapshot, where, what would the snapshot tell you? Where they live, rough budget, what they do for a living, what they're looking at spending. Like, all of that information is useful and relevant when you actually speak to them, because you can already be planning, okay, I know the type of house they're looking at. I know how many bedrooms they need. You can start earmarking stuff and shortlisting things based on area and specifics. Yeah, I don't see why that would ever be a bad thing, to get a kind of little window into. Now, obviously, you're still going to have to do a really thorough discovery, but I've got every belief in the fact that a simple application can give you a good little window into their needs, wants, and desires. Yeah,
brilliant. Geoff Ketterer, mate, thank you so much for taking the time out to actually record this. I know it's been a few months, but I'm so grateful that we finally got you on.
Likewise, mate. Likewise. Always a pleasure.